My name is Ben Siamar, Mohammad. Like I said, I will give you a course of Islam. Last week we have spoken about the introduction to Islam. Today we will talk about the prophethood and revelation. Okay, you can follow with me on page 12, please. Do you have this page? No? Did I make a mistake? I didn't copy everything?
No, we didn't have.
Just page 11. Oh, so I made a mistake. On the end of the course, I will make other copies. Okay? But you can follow if you want with me. You try to me. I apologize for this mistake. Okay? No problem. So the prophethood and revelation. The primary mission of all prophets, not only just in Islam, is to warn people, to remind, in Arabic, dhikr, people of their moral and religious obligation to serve and worship God alone without associating any partners with Him. Or even the Prophet said...
Maybe on version is different. I can see the information you presented on page 9.
Okay. Okay, it's good. Then we can follow if you have it, please. Maybe it is a little bit differentiation, no problem, but the idea is the same. Yeah, prophethood and revelation.
Yeah, in page 9.
Okay. Because I remembered I copied it, prophethood and but with me here I have page 12, but you have another page. It will be the same normally. In Islam, God's role in human history is not played by Him directly. Just God don't play directly through self-disclosure of incarnation. Following Islam, He reveals Himself rather through His prophets and messengers. Therefore, human history is a prophetic history. Adam, following Islam, Adam is the father of humankind, but he is also the first sinner. His sin is a violation of the principle of submission, of Islam to go through disobedience. And the story of Adam is in the Quran mentioned many times, like in Quran 7:12-26, Quran chapter 20, 114, 127. But he is also the first prophet. He is the first humankind following the Islam, first sinner, and the first prophet also. This is another discussion about creation and theory of evolution, but that's another discussion. Just we say now what the Islam says. Is to discuss nature. Before he and his wife disobey God and eat for the forbidden tree. Before that, God taught him the names, all things, the names of the trees, of the mountains, of like this. In Quran, for more explanation, Quran 2, chapter 2, 31. For with this revelation to his earthly creatures, God challenges the angels. They protested They protested against God. Choosing such an insignificant creature and his potentially wicked progeny to be his stewards, in Arabic, Khalifa on earth. But God ordered them to bow down before man. This comes, some scholars, they say, how did the angels knew that man and his progeny will be wicked, whereas the angels doesn't know the future, doesn't predict the future. How did they know? Maybe there were other sorts of humankind of earth which like human were, maybe. If so, the evolution theory, it's not contradictory to the creation theory. This is an opinion about some scholars. Bon, but God ordered them to bow down before Adam. They all did, except Satan of Iblis in Arabic, who thinks himself to be better than Adam because he has been created from fire. Because of his sin of rebellion, Satan is expelled by God from the company of the angels. He is allowed, however, to tempt Adam and the weak among his descendants into disobeying God till the day of resurrection. After Adam and Eve, and by implication, the rest of humankind are expelled from the garden, God promises them salvation through revelation. And whoever, here Quran 2:38, and whoever follows my guidance, no fear shall come upon them, nor will they grieve. Islamic tradition asserts that God sent 124,000 prophets at various times and to every community to remind people of their obligation to the one and only sovereign Lord. Quran 207. You can afterwards, for more explanation, go to Quran and consultate the verses which I mentioned here on the course. They are longer than what I mentioned here in the course. And the Quran mentions 26 prophets only, most of them biblical personages like Abraham, Moses, David, Solomon, Elijah of Eliah, Jonah the Baptist, in Tarabis Yahya, John the Baptist, Jesus, and others. Some are Arabian. For Arabian, of course, they are not mentioned in the Bible or Old Testament or New Testament. Islamic tradition distinguishes between prophets, Nabi, and messengers. Rasul, messenger is Rasul whereas the message of a prophet is limited to a specific people, and for a particular time. The message of a messenger is also sent to a specific community, but with an universal binding sacred law. Like before, although Moses is given the Torah, for the ancient Hebrews, the Torah remains binding on all those who know it, not only just Jews. Hebrews and others till the coming of the subsequent revelation, which is the gospel, in Arabic, Injil, of the Greek Evangelion of Jesus. Jesus declares in the Quran, addressing his fellow Jews, I shall confirm the Torah. This is in the Quran, not in the Bible. I shall confirm the Torah that was before me, and will make lawful for you some of the things which were before unlawful for you. Quran 3:50. Of course, for the Islam, Muhammad closes the list. He is the seal of the prophets, as the least of messengers. He is the messenger of God, the seal of the prophets. Quran 33:40. While the Quran is seen as the last and the perfect revelation of God's word, there can be no further addition to this message. Although, but you know, there was, after Muhammad, there was a lot of other messengers, like Baha'u'llah, like Ahmadiyya, Ahmad Ghulam Ahmad in Pakistan, Baha'u'llah, Qadianiyya, lots of different messages. They come later on. Maybe you know these religions, Ahmadiyya, Baha'u'llah, Bab. You don't get it here. Well, later on you will get it. So they believe in Prophet Muhammad, but they say they were prophets sent from God, and they have new revelation. They have another book also. It's Ahmadiyya, especially Ahmadiyya and Baha'iyya. They are derived from Shia schools. The 5 major prophets in the Quran, the Islam, among the 4 prophets, 5 are called Ulu al-Azm, those of power, of firm resolve. Quran 46:35. Noah, Abraham, Moses, Jesus, and Muhammad. This is the more important prophets in the Quran. Noah is the father of humanity. What is second start? You know why second start? After a flood. In vain and for a long time, he called people to turn to God before God destroys them by the flood. We will see that this story of Noah comes again with different prophets and with Muhammad also, because in vain and for a long time he called people, Muhammad also, to turn to before God. The story of Noah reflects a typology of the prophet, to be compared with the time of Muhammad himself. The prophet is chosen by God to be sent to his own particular people, and he is well guided by God, in contrast with his people in sin, error, and madness. We see the story of prophets, they repeat itself. There is a lot of similitude between Noah and other prophets. Prophet will stand up and warn his people, referring to what happened before with the peoples of previous prophet, but they reject God's servants. God becomes his only help, and for his people the punishment becomes inevitable. For more explanation, Quran 29, 14, and Quran 11:25, 49, and Quran 54, 9, 15. Noah, of Nuh in Arabic, receives the first Sharia, sacred law, the Noahic law of Noahic law, reported in Muslim tradition closely. Lots of Sharia laws, we find it back in Muslim law, Sharia law of Noah. Muslim tradition closely corresponds to the Noahic covenant in Jewish tradition. Islam affirms a close theological and spiritual kinship with the biblical heritage. Of course, Abraham or Ibrahim in Arabic. In the Quran, Abraham is guided through his own innate reason capacity from the idol worship of his people to the knowledge of God. Ibrahim, who left his people and his idols, if you want, historically, he went from Iraq because the Tigris and Euphrates, the two rivers in Euphrates, Mesopotamia. So he lived there with his people, but afterwards he lives with his wife Sarah and his cousin Lot. And he goes from there, from Iraq until Palestine, and from Palestine until Egypt. There he has a good relationship with the Pharaoh, and the Pharaoh, he gives him a gift. He gives him Hajar. Hajar is second slave or second wife, and he comes back. He went following the Islam. He went until Mecca. There he built the Kaaba with his son Ismail. Historically, it's difficult to believe, but if you are a believer, you have to believe it. If you are a believer, you have to believe it, because believing is 100%. But historically, it's relative. If we speak about science, history of anthropology, of archaeology, they are sciences and they are relative. They are not absolute. But religion is absolute. Belief is absolute. Believe it or not. That's why I say. We are Muslims. We believe that instead Abraham, lives from Iraq. He was old. He was 90 years old, more than 90 years old, and then he went to Palestine, Canaan, and then he went to Egypt, back to Palestine, and then he went to Mecca. But there is a lot of kilometers. Only from Palestine to Mecca, more than 1,000 kilometers. Okay, this is why I am Muslim. I try to be neutral. I'm not here to define Islam or something here. Just I would like you to think about what we are saying. Okay. But for the question afterwards, okay? Better I speak about in half an hour and the question afterwards, please. Thank you very much. Ibrahim, who left his people and his idols, is the real believer. In the Quran 6:79, I turn my face, that is my entire person, to him who originated the heavens and the earth, a man of pure faith, Hanif. And I am not one of the associators, Mushrikeen, who add their things or beings with God. Abraham was Hanif. Hanif, it means the original religion. We don't say Muslim or Christian or Jewish, but we say original religion. He believes in one God. Even older than Jewish belief, Ibrahim was indeed a model, devoutly obedient to God, Hanif, and he joined no gods to God. Quran 16:120. Why I mentioned the Quran, because to make sure, if you want to be sure to go to read it. The prophets who follow Abraham are largely his descendants through his two sons. Following Islam, the Arabian through Ismail, because why Ismail? went to marry with an Arab woman. Hmm? And the Hebraic through Isaac. And we know that almost all prophets, they are Hebraic. Moses, and then we come to Moses. Moses occupies more space in the Quran than any other prophet. He is mentioned over 200 times. The scripture revealed to him, the Torah, is for Muslims second in importance to the Quran and most like it in content and purpose. Moses is sent not only to his own people, but to Pharaoh and his people. Pharaoh persists in the sin of claiming parity with God for himself, which is shirk, associate someone with God. The magicians he brings to counter God's miracles through Moses' hands are converted and die as martyrs for their faith. Muslims believe that every major prophet is supported by evidentiary miracles in his claim to be a prophet sent by God. And Quran 19 and also Quran 79 verses 15-25. And then for last we have Jesus. Jesus is presented in the Quran as a miracle in himself. His virgin birth, his ability to heal the sick, feed the hungry, and even rise the dead are seen as life-giving miracles. They are meant to affirm God's creative and life-giving power against the denial by many Jews. Furthermore, they are performed at a time when Greek medicine, science, and philosophy question the sovereignty, power, and wisdom of God. The miracles of Jesus, therefore, serve to assert the power of God over human science and wisdom. God is surely my Lord and your Lord, worship him, therefore this is the straight way. Quran 3, verse 51. Jesus is a greater prophet for Muslims, but the Quran category denies his divinity and divine sonship. Quran 5, Quran 19, and Quran chapter 5. And you find also mentioned the verses. His role, this is the difference between Christianity and Islam. Islam recognized the miraculous birth of Jesus, but he denies that he divinity. And the people, the Muslims, they don't understand very well the Trinity. For the Muslims, is difficult to understand. For Christians, they get Trinity when they are child, so they learn it automatically. But for a Muslim, for him, Trinity is difficult to understand. This is why there are differences between Islam and Christianity. It's the only difference, I think. But it's not a big difference. His role extended far beyond his earthly existence as a prophet into sacred history. The Quran insists that Jesus did not die, but was lifted up by God to heaven. Whereas I think Christianity consists that Jesus indeed died, but was lifted up by God to heaven also. He is to return at the end of time as a sign of the knowledge of the hour, the day of resurrection. Quran 43 verse 61. And establish true Islam on earth. Jesus announces also the coming of Muhammad, saying, "O children of Israel, I am the messenger of God to you, confirming the Torah that was before me, and announcing a messenger who shall come after me, whose name is Ahmad." Quran 61:6. But of course, in the Bible we don't find it. We don't find that Jesus mentioned that the coming of Muhammad. Only the Quran who mentioned it. Okay. And then at the last prophet from Ulul Azm, Muhammad is presented in the Quran and in Muslim tradition as the prophet of the end of time. He is the seal of the prophets and the sacred book. The Quran, which he receives from God, is the final revelation, confirming and supplanting all previous revelations. The Quran asserts that God has sent his messenger with the book and wisdom. Quran 62. Shafi'i, that's one leadership in the Islam who created the Shafi'i school, law school, which until nowadays it's adopted in several countries, argued that the book is the Quran and the wisdom is the Sunnah. Sunnah is the life example of the Prophet Muhammad, which provided for Muslims the model that guides history till its final consummation in the day of judgment. Muslims accord Muhammad the high spiritual prominence. I stop here a little bit, and then I give you a word to ask a question, and we continue.